Hello again, this is Colm Gibney. After researching star formations for a while, I soon realized that I would need to classify and categorize them. The most common types are 4 points and 5 points, but there are many others. 6 points, 7 points, 8 points, 9 points, 11 points, coastal and riverside, hilltop, and satellite, to name a few. One of the other types I christened hedgehogs, as is clear to see by this example. Here is the head, and here is the body. See, happy little hedgehog. So, I thought that hedgehogs were rare until I started going through my database for the umpteenth time. I was checking for peripheral structures in the larger area surrounding 5 points. In fact, I was working on the Pentagon video when it struck me that the hedgehogs were more common than I previously thought. By looking at these various examples, it is clear to see their visibility varies a lot due to a number of factors. Centuries of development, railway networks, and quarrying are the principal ones. So let's have a look at Frederica, Denmark. Head is down here, and the body. Have a look at Valletta. Head and the body. Next up we have, we're in New Brunswick in Canada. There's the head. And these lines here, it's more like a fan, but you will see that you might think that this is a stretch, but there are more similar to this, and we'll be going through them now. Move over to Quebec. There we go there. If you can't see it, we'll just add this line here because it makes the features clear, and it would have come down this way, making a nice little hedgehog. Next, we're going to move on to, let me see, where can we go? Yes. This is a rather large one. This is Copenhagen, Denmark. And as you can see, here's the head, and here's the body going way, way, way out here, all the way around. It would have come down this way. Up. And down this way. You can see how development has made the features indistinct. But yes, it's quite clear to see a very big hedgehog. Where to next? Pas-de-Calais, France. Here we have the head and the body. Okay. Moving on to down the road again. Head, body, and this guy's got a bit of a fat tail. But all the star formation features are there. Next, we're moving on to Lille in France. The head is very clear to see, but some of the features of the body are not so easy, but they are there. We can see how they've been toned down a bit. But clearly head, body. We'll take it to Domitz Fort in Germany. There we go. This one's like a little one we saw there earlier. There's the head and smaller body, but the features are definitely there. Würzburg. Yes, this poor little hedgehog's been cut in half by a river. Here's his head. And the body goes all the way around out here. We're seeing the same features over and over. You can clearly see where the city limits were, the town as it was built, as it expanded inside the body. You can see where its limits were, and these would have been all those lovely pointed features which now make up green belts in a lot of towns and cities. You'll quite often notice that the oldest part of the city as well is right in the heart or next to the head. Take it a bit further now to Cameron in Hungary. Now, that's a satellite feature, but because they mix and match some of the features, but here we can clearly see, here's the head. This hedgehog's pointing the other way. He's pointing to the right, and here's his body. The features go up and around. There he is there. We'll go over to Italy. This hedgehog actually reminds me of a sleeping cat. There's the head and there's the body. You can clearly see that the size of the houses, the streets were more compact. They were trying to fit as much as possible inside this restricted area. They were building up to these limits. They tried to get as much in there as they possibly could. And once outside, where they had more space, the development was different. There's a lot to be read in the street plan of a city. I prefer to call them fingerprints, but here we are, staying in Italy. This one's sort of comical. These coastal Mediterranean ones seem to be in harder rock. They are smaller with sharper features. The points on the head are more pointed, sharper looking. Not so big. It's kind of a strange hat shape or something overall, but a little stylized hedgehog. Again, in Italy, this one is pretty huge. Give you an idea of the size. Here's the head. From the head to the back is 2.2 kilometers. Out this way. And I would guess that this was the body going up to here and around and back down here and back over to the head. But well over 2 kilometers that way. Our typical features are there. These very expensive bastions that actually bankrupted cities, if you believe what they tell you. In Italy again. This I pointed out in the Pentagon video as being being an asymmetrical example, but there are many that are asymmetrical despite looking pretty much perfectly pentagonal. They can be slightly off. One of the points may be a different shape to the rest. And in terms of this hedgehog, we here. I've outlined some of the features. I don't outline these things willy-nilly just to make it fit my idea. These are real features. They are there. Quite often there's a substantial wall on the line. And upon investigation, you can piece it together. So there's another one. Over to Tuscany. Very round hedgehog, this guy. His head got a bit squashed. Looks like this harbour development infringed on him a bit. But he goes up here. I can't stress enough how important it is to notice that the architecture on star formations is strictly conforming to the foundation of the star, whatever it is. Another Italian one. Here's the head. Oh, he's very rectangular, this guy. Can you see him? Yep, there he is. Same thing, the oldest part of the town inside, pushing out, and tight, compact, small narrow streets, and freer, different layout outside. I have to go down the list a bit for the next one. Yes. Not much to see in this one. In fact, it's a hard one. I ask your opinion because it's been highly developed and is well erased. There are only some features of the head remaining, and most people wouldn't have considered that this part was in fact part of this at all. I believe it is, and I'd like to know what you think. See how the architecture, despite being modern, is conforming to what appears to be an invisible limit line. It possibly had a tail going out this way. May have gone up that way, but I would say head, body, and then once outside the body, you're into a more modern grid-like layout of the streets. Here we are in Rhode Island. Yes, this one is interesting because there's one that's very similar to this. Here's the head, and the limit of the body would have gone out here. Just try and bear this feature in mind. If you like to call it a square point, or an individual satellite fort. I keep making the mistakes and calling them forts, but there's no doubt that they were used as forts, but I don't think that's their original use. Okay, up to, sorry, Belgium. Another fairly clear example. Head, body, features out here. Quite elaborate. No, not a rabbit, a hedgehog. And again, the oldest part of the town situated here, the heart of the town, near the head, inside the body, street layout reflecting where the points would have been. Moving on to back over to France. Are we in the right place? Sorry, we're not in the right place. Here we are. So this is in Italy, not France. On the, are we on the Mediterranean? Yes, we are. And same thing, we've got quite distinct, sharper features because we're sticking out of the sea here. We're very restricted, and it looks like somebody took a big bite out of him. Poor little hedgehog. Now we're back in France. Here we go. Head, body, these features here. Forestry and woodland can impact the visual evidence quite a bit. If it's heavily forested, things can be quite well hidden in there, and you'd never know what was there. So what do we have in the Netherlands? A little head, little castle, and the body going around here. Portugal. Head down here, body, heart of the town, pushing out as far as it could until newer, later development came along. Next door in Spain, head would have been down here, body very clear to see, going around out here. Old town, new town. Back to the Netherlands. Just another Oops. Yes, well, there's no doubt there's a hedgehog there. His head seems to be hiding a bit, but there he is. No need to highlight anything with that one. Staying in the Netherlands, this guy is very square, like an Italian one. Where his head was is not so obvious, but I guess under the railway, as is typical. So if we turn this guy around this way, that's the way he would have been. Across the way in the Netherlands, another headless hedgehog. And across the way again. This one is interesting. You might say that this is the head and this is the body. However, we've kind of got a three-headed hedgehog, or one big hedgehog with his head blown off or washed away. And there's 1, 2, 3. An interesting example. And here we go again. Huge amount of development all around here, but you can clearly see features that haven't gone away, and you can see where the features would have been, but there's just too much development. Moving on yet again to here we go. Here we go. Head. Where have we seen this before? Half cut off by a river. Just have a look at this. What he looked like in 1665. Our hedgehog. They make no mention of his Mohican, but then again that probably grew with time. So these are the inconsistencies that we have to try and work on between old maps and that. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if this map was actually from 665 as opposed to 1665. That would explain how, in some examples, buildings predate the map because the map date is wrong. That's just another thought. Right next door we have this guy. Not so clear to see, but Most definitely there. There we go. Hard to see, isn't he? But those features are there. The architecture conforms pretty rigidly, and we know that they're there. Still in France. Here's the head, part of it, and there's the body. And this guy had a crew cut because his spikes are very short and small. He's got a mad head. Same thing repeating over and over again. The oldest part of the town crammed into this space. Later town built around the outside, right out to the modern era. Where's it gone? Back into Italy. Here we've got a very clear head, and oh, this is Parma in Italy. I think we're looking at pretty huge one here. It would appear to be this. Maybe just that, like so. Head and body. But with the majority looking at the others to back it up, could well have been out here as well. So on to here, Saint-Malo in France. Same thing, he's coastal and very restricted. There we go. Down the list a bit to Palermo. Palermo in Sicily. Where is he? This hedgehog. Let's just guess where he is. We've clearly got his head here. Here we have the oldest type of street system. And it's concentrated around the heart here. And modern development way outside. See if we can that sort of clears it up. So he would be to be a hedgehog, he'd be oriented like that. This is one example where I'm just giving a rough outline. Not all the features are there. However, in 1595 or maybe 595, this is what he looked like. So they're moving on to Sardinia. Small one. Is he upside down, or was his head here? Probably here. Well, don't be fooled by round towers. They've not too much to do with the star formation. What's built on top has nothing really to do with what was underneath. Onward again. This is Munster in Germany. I believe somebody who has seen my previous videos lived in Munster. Here's the head, here's the body, and will this bring it up for me? Sorry if you bear with the slow connection. Well, there's what Munster looked like in 1636. I'll try and overlay it onto this, but the features are all, well, they're not all there, but some of them are there, and the clues that they were all there are there too. Ooh, moving on over to Poland. This looks big. Yes, very big indeed. Now, this one looks a bit more like a mad deep sea fish as opposed to a hedgehog, but the principle is pretty much the same. I would guess that this is the head and the body was going around here. It's not very clear to see, but we do have a lot of the telltale features, and we have the oldest part of the city established in the heart. It in itself may have been walled within here, and as time moved on, it grew out to the limits. No, not to a modern decision to make a green belt. No, that was already there, so they built as far out as they could. If this wasn't here, you probably wouldn't have green belts in cities. Okay, we're going back to France. Tournai. Here we have this, and just to make them clearer for you, okay, see how it goes. head, body, all the way around. We know from this old map that all this was there at one stage. It's not there today, but we have the telltale signs that it was. We have our ring road and green belt, head, body, oldest part of the city, set up in the heart here. Okay, sorry, I think I've got fluff in my mouth. Excuse me. So, where are we now? Moving on to if you don't find this interesting, I don't know what. This is quite clear to see. He's got a nice little pointy head. Call those his legs. Tail. His pointy body. This is Manila in the Philippines. And it's all the same. Now, this may not be the oldest part of Manila, because if you look at the architecture, see there are an awful lot of right angles in it, and that indicates a later settlement. If it was all little windy streets, something more like these ones here, if they were in there, I would say that the old part of the town established in here. But what I think happened is that the old part of Manila established itself over here. They couldn't get into this. They couldn't make their way in here until more a later time, and they built this type which sort of matches this era outside. Here we've got a lot of squares and right angles, so that is something. There'll be more on this later on anyway. Moving right down a bit to over to Spain. Not much arguing here. Head, body. Don't think anybody would dispute that. These are the little windy streets again. Oldest part of the town, later part of the town. Also notice with a lot of Spanish, Portuguese. The bull ring is. I'm not sure I've seen a bull ring in the heart of an old Spanish city or town, even where they have a bit of space. I think that bullfighting was a more recent, well, certainly after the first settlers. I don't know how long back that tradition goes. Needless to say, I'm not very fond of it, but there we go. We're moving quickly up to Sweden. Will we turn him around this way, will we? Turn around. He's a bit flat for a hedgehog, isn't he? Okay, head, body. Still in Sweden, in Gothenburg. We can see some pointy bits here, Can we make it clearer? Just want to point out here the amount of railway here has certainly had its impact. And there he was, so we can turn him around this way. Have a look at our little fella. So where do they get all the materials to build these rail yards? Well, they bang it right out of here. Yeah. I'd say that's what happened. Okay, sorry for holding you up so long. This has taken much longer than I had anticipated, but the point has to be made. I'll show you one more before I make a final point about Washington again. It's a small one, small little hedgehog, big head, small body. Same things, time and time again. Oldest part of town, established in the heart here. And to try and shorten this video a bit, I'm going to bring you right back to Washington. So here in Washington we have... Does anything look familiar to you here from what I've just shown you? Head, body. Washington was a big one as well, but in fact, I've gone a bit farther because my guess is that would have been the internal dimension, so it's just about 2 kilometers, which is well within parameters for big hedgehogs. When you look at these and compare them closely, there's so many features that are just almost identical. Head, body. This angle here, this line there, was in at least 2 of the examples that I showed you. Here we've got water just encroaching on things. So just to give you an idea, if we compare Washington to Copenhagen, Denmark, we'll get something that looks like that. That's Copenhagen. That's Washington, Copenhagen, Washington, Copenhagen, Washington. This line, just the form of this is matching this line. The head and the body, as I said, head, body, and they are on the same scale. So, ladies and gentlemen, there we have it. I will apologize for being so long-winded, but things had to be pointed out to be clear. And I will leave it at that for this episode. Thank you for tuning in and see you shortly. Goodbye.